Good evening, one and all. We welcome you to the international webinar series on holistic health, well-being and sustainable development 2022 on occasion of World Breastfeeding Month 2022 and also in commemoration with Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav, nation celebrating 75 years of independence and UN Sustainable Development Goals 2015 to 2030 as part of awareness and campaigns in collaboration with Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute and Center for Art, Sciences and Wellbeing. We welcome you all to the international webinar series. Before we start our session, let's take the blessings of Almighty.
कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शत्रुबुद्धिविनाशाय दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते दीपज्योतिर्नमोऽस्तुते शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः शुभं कुरुत्वं कल्याणम् आरोग्यं धनसम्पदः
With the blessings of Almighty, we shall continue to today's session. Today we have with us Miss Naomi George, founder, Life at Optimum, well-being and mindset mentor, speaker, facilitator. Naomi is a well-being mentor and the founder of Life at Your Optimum. She is author of Mummy, How I Raised Babies, Survived My Toddlers and Learned to Love Myself, published by HarperCollins India 2012, a certified diversity professional, CDP with fundamental learning in TA, transactional analysis. She has masters in professional communication and bachelor's in English literature. We welcome you, Naomi George, and we invite you to take over for your session, Correlation Between Self-Care, Identity and Our Well-Being. You can unmute yourself, start your video and presentation.
Dr. Ravindra, thank you for having me on this wonderful platform. It's a pleasure to be here with everyone. And I hope that you find the session useful. I look forward to your comments, any questions or feedback at the end of the session. So yes, I am the founder of Life at Optimum and a well-being mentor. And I just want to say briefly why it is that I champion well-being so strongly and how my well-being journey started. It is when I became a mother about 12 and a half years ago to my first child and made the transition from a woman to a parent to a mom that I understood that the role of caregiving, whether it is to our children or whether it is to our elders or families, is one that requires a lot from oneself. It requires energy, emotional, physical, and mental. And where women are concerned, as they become new moms and take on that role, often they lose parts of themselves. So I too went through a brief bout with baby blues. Before I was advised by my mother, she said to me, you must take care of yourself in order to take care of your child and your family. And that is when I began to focus on myself, and I understood that caregiving takes a lot out. And in order to give, we must have. And so that put me on the journey towards working with new mothers and women, first-time mothers, and really championing their self-care to get them to understand that we cannot love, live, work, and parent unless we have love within ourselves and unless we look after ourselves, because love takes energy, as life takes energy. As my well-being journey evolved, I have come to sort of understand, especially post-pandemic, and all the anxiety, the isolation, the depression, the poor mental health that so many of us are undergoing, that well-being belongs to us all, and that it is the foundation of our lives. It shapes the quality of our lives. So this is why I champion well-being, because if we take care of our wellness, then we are able to present our best selves to the world. So that's my backstory. And with that, let me, why is this not allowing me to shift the screen? What is this? How can I go to the next? Okay, there we go. So as I said, self-care is where I began and where I still am, because it is critical to love, live, work, and parent. It is what shapes the quality of our lives. It affects our productivity. Because if you think about it, if we do not feel a sense of inherent energy and well-being with ourselves, we are not able to bring our concentration and our best selves to our work, to our relationships. We are depleted. So for this presentation, I want to show the relationship between our well-being, our wellness, and our identity, how it affects our identity, because who are we at the essence? We are our energy. I want to show that relationship of well-being to energy and how we show up in our lives. And only if we are constant, if we are intentionally checked in with ourselves and our well-being, will it enable us to thrive and not just survive. And most of us are in survival mode as we battle life's challenges, as we go through relational issues. Life is not without challenge. We are all facing some issue, whether it's financial, relational, familial, health. But in the middle of all of this, it is possible to create a space within us that is tilted towards our thriving, from where we can function and meet and engage with the rest of the world. So let me show you that relationship now. So what is self-care? You know, it's often thought of as exercise and walk in the park and, you know, eating plants and good food. It is much more than that. At its core, self-care is our relationship with ourselves. And it is a lifelong practice of coming home to ourselves. It is how we treat ourselves, the value we place on ourselves, and how we honor our needs. This is self-care. It is about ourselves. That is why I talk about self-care and the co-relationship with identity. Because if we go beyond the families that we come from, the places, our states, our languages, who are we at our core, that answer can be found in how we treat ourselves in our relationship with ourselves and how we feel about ourselves. So this is it. This is self-care. It's a relationship. It's a lifelong relationship with ourselves. And a core part of that is belonging. The wonderful social researcher, Brené Brown, TEDx speaker, author of multiple books, she says, we have to belong to ourselves as much as we need to belong to others. Of course, we need a social community that is part of our well-being. But any belonging that asks us to betray ourselves is not true belonging. And again, how do we betray ourselves? We betray ourselves when we do not take care of our needs. When we consistently put our needs aside to take care, to show up for other people, to cultural conditioning, to society, to our jobs, to our roles. But if you're betraying yourself and what you need and who you are at the heart, that's not belonging. And before we belong to anybody else, we belong to ourselves. So self-care, well-being is that practice of coming home to who you are. And how do we do that? So it's about our wholeness, it's about our identity, it's about how we feel. So when we talk about the self, and I'm talking about the self in relationship with energy, because we are the energy that we embody. We all know here in this room that every mental thought and emotions and feelings has a physiological response in the body. We are energy. We are fluid. Where if you look at the self, again, for this entire session, I'll talk about the diminished self and the enhanced self. We diminish ourselves when we are depleted, when we deny our needs. So our need for rest, our need for support, our need for care or for learning, whatever our need for love, our need for touch. These are all fundamental basic needs. Our need to be seen, to be heard. You're often told, keep the peace, don't say anything, let it go. But we betray ourselves when we keep the peace, if it's something that doesn't sit with us properly. So when we consistently deny our needs, there is a diminishing of ourselves, a contracting. Along with this, we all have a very high inner critical voice, which is very condemning of our mistakes, of our failures. And there is no life without failure. There is no life without not getting it right. You can't get it right all the time. We are going to fail at presentations, at jobs, at interviews, at meetings, at relationships. And if you're going to beat yourself over it, which is like, you could have done a better job, you should have been better prepared, it's a diminishing of self. And the self is preserved with a compassionate inner voice, which speaks to you like the way you would speak to your best friend, when they make a mistake, or when they when they get it wrong. And you say, it's okay, you can try again. Next time you'll be better prepared, or it's all right. The relationship, you misunderstood the situation, you misread the situation. How can we make it better? So when you use a compassionate inner voice, you're preserving yourself. You're not diminishing yourself. And when we stay connected with our needs and who we are, then we move to an enhanced sense of self. And it's from an enhanced sense of self that we are best placed to engage with the world, with the people that we interact with our work. So how shall we belong to ourselves? This is a forum for holistic health, well-being, awareness. TA, transactional analysis, and a lot of psychology says we must function from the state of adult. And adult states begins from an awareness of being in the here and now, of not distracting ourselves from the truth of what we are experiencing, what we are truly feeling, but coming into that place, being in the here and now, come home to ourselves and understand and aim to meet our needs. This is how we belong to ourselves, where we don't put a screen over it, but we face up to it in a compassionate manner. And the key is really we face up to who we are from a compassionate space, not from a critical place. And this is something, the compassionate voice is something that you have to stay in touch with it and build that compassionate voice with you over time. So there is a process to this. There's a process to self-care. And that is what we'll cover here, which is repeated check-ins, ritual and routine, taking space, boundaries, and the compassionate inner voice that I speak of. So, as I said, the process of coming home to who you are is self-care. It is active. Self-care and well-being is not gifted to us. It doesn't just come and sit on our shoulders. It is an active process. We have to go after it. We have to choose our well-being, and we have to say, my well-being matters, I matter. It's active, it's intentional action. If you're going to choose to take time out to do something, I saw something beautiful in one of the sessions. It said meditate with mandala. I thought that was wonderful. If you're going to choose that, it's with the intention that it's good for you, that it's taking you to a beautiful space, a joyous space. So it's intentional active action, and the self is at the core. It's self-responsibility. We do not give our happiness and our well-being, we don't hand it across to anybody else. It's our responsibility. And when we take that responsibility for our well-being and our happiness into our own hands, and we make moves towards it, small micro moves, consistent micro moves over time, like a walk in the park, like beautiful rituals, like developing hobbies, all of that, over time it leads to an enhancement of self. It leads to a robust identity, a robust sense of self. So with self-responsibility comes empowerment and a feeling that we are in control of our lives and that life is not happening to us. We feel like spectators in our own lives when we don't take control. We can take control. We can take control of our well-being in small ways. That is the beauty of well-being. You don't have to take on the world. We can take control of ourselves by treating ourselves nicely, by being kind towards ourselves. There's a whole science around the compassionate inner voice, how it is the compassionate inner voice is linked to high resiliency. It is linked to reset after failure. It is linked to an enhanced sense of self. With a kind inner voice, you will take more risk. With a critical inner voice that hits out at you for failing, for not knowing better, for whatever it is, you will take less risk because your ultimate goal is only perfection. There is no perfection without mistake. So repeated check-ins with self. These are some beautiful questions that need to be asked because this is the gateway to who we are. How am I feeling right now? What do I need right now? And when you answer the question, ask the question, how am I feeling? It's such a simple question to ask. We must ask it because you will hear tired, low, bored, etc. I want to speak briefly on bored because one of the things that the pandemic did to us is it took away our avenues for pleasure. We were restricted into spaces of, there was so much fear and insecurity and concern for our safety and all of that. We were operating out of virtual spaces and all of that. We couldn't go out and experience life, right? So boredom is a legitimate feeling. You're allowed to feel bored. And it's a very numbing feeling. How can you, when you're feeling bored, the question to then ask is, what do I need? And we're allowed to say we need stimulus. We need stimulus. We might want to engage with a course that gives us a sense of knowledge because a lot of us thrive on knowledge. We feel alive when we're learning. And because I work with organizations and the corporate space, many people don't have the ideal job straight off. And we don't have the luxury of changing our jobs. So we may not be enjoying our jobs right now, but we can enhance the learning through a course. Also, we can give ourselves pleasure by doing things like pottery, gardening, like this beautiful mandala, meditation with mandalas, art. We can do a course on art. Why can't we give ourselves pleasure? We are entitled to it. So boredom is a legitimate response. Hopelessness means we need to take action. We need to reach out for help. If you're feeling hopeless, we need help. That means I need support. What do I need right now? How am I feeling? What do I need right now? Is the very fundamental questions, and we can ask it of ourselves at any time. We should ask it ourselves constantly. So here are the answers. Rest. You need an afternoon nap, take it. Our well-being is ours. We shouldn't be answerable to it for anyone, to anyone. Play. Play has gone. How can we bring play back? How can we bring play? Because play is very important to a sense of vitality and vibrancy. We cannot thrive without feelings of vitality and vibrancy. We can't constantly be in a mode where we're surviving, where we're battling, where we're functioning from the amygdala response. Play is expansive. It makes us laugh. It makes us go into our child state. Spontaneity comes with play. So do we have people like that? What can we do? Sleep, adventure, maybe. I don't know if there's any Gen Z here, but adventure. And why should it only be restricted to Gen Z? Why can't we have adventure too? Hobbies. So what do I need? How am I feeling? This is important. Then if you want to go further and talk about the enhanced self, what do I need to feel my best? To feel my best is energetically feeling your best. Again, you come back to your energy. You will feel your best when you're expansive, when you take space, not when you're like, anxious or depleted of energy, tired, exhausted. And these are all predominant feelings that are in the world right now, that all of us are battling. So what do we do to feel good, to take that contracted energy and make it a bit expansive? What do I need to feel my best? What is working in my life right now and what isn't? Let us be aware of that. Even if we don't choose to act on it, we should be aware of it. And what is missing from my daily routine? You might be going for a walk every day, but still something feels missing. What is it? Is it anxiousness? Is it that you need to feel more peace in your life? Do you need to put in a window for meditation every day or some sort of spiritual ritual? What is missing from a routine that is right now not working? Even though you might be eating healthy, you might be walking every day, but there's something missing. What is that missing? Is it spiritual? Is it a bit of vibrancy? Is it vitality? What do you need to go? Where do you need to address? So this is what repeated check-ins with self will lead to. It's an arrow to ourselves, to what we need, and that can enable us to move in the direction of thriving, not stay in surviving. Ritual and routine is the next part of it. As I said, we all, well-being is a practice. Wellness is a practice. You have to commit to it and say, I am going to be doing X, Y, Z every day. So my wellness routine is I have to exercise. I have to go for a walk every day. It releases my endorphins. I feel good. It takes away the cortisol in my body at the end of the long day of stress and anxiety. Of course, cortisol is released, and exercise, walking, anything, as we all know this, that is the only way to combat this, right? So that's my walking routine. But my ritual is my meditation practice. And for me, I do it every day because it anchors me, it grounds me, it creates some distance from the self and all the challenge that's happening, all the turmoil that's happening. I need some space, and it gives me that space. And for me, it has a spiritual element. I connect to something larger than myself, which I need to. Now here with Nikita, morning walk is her routine. But her ritual is the weekend coffee. And ritual is anything that we do that has meaning, that has meaning. And it has a whole different energy and space about it. Ritual is important. We need both. We need ritual and routine for our well-being, for our wellness. So, and it's achievable, it's doable. And this ritual, these are life case studies that I have spoken to people about. She said this ritual is what gets her through the week. So on Wednesday, when she is depleted and exhausted, with 3 children and a pet and a job, so the energy output of caregiving is tremendous. She said, I know I have to just think about my girlfriends on Saturday and I feel, oh, thank God, I've got something to look forward to. It's a place of, what does it give her? Fun, absolute let go. Revitalizing of herself, right? So this is what I'm saying. A very simple way to check in with your well-being is to stay connected with your energy. This is a long one. This is Preeti. She has a very high-stress job as a financial trader. Her routine is everyday exercise in the morning. But her ritual, and this is what I loved, is she wakes up at 5 o'clock just to have alone time with herself before her husband and child get up. And that is, she said to me, sacred to me. Because she doodles, she's creative, so she does her doodling, and she has a cup of tea in complete silence. And that silence is just not silence. It is ritualistic silence. It's very important to her. It's sacred. And from there, she takes on the rest of the day as a financial trader. It's very, very stressful, but that is where she grounds herself. So this is a combination of ritual and routine happening in the same space. So it is up to us how we incorporate this in our lives. This is Nikhil. Daily walk routine, or daily walk and meditation is his routine, but he loves Kabban Park, which is a beautiful park in Bangalore, and that he needs to see it every day, every Sunday, because the trees and it has meaning for him. He's grown up with it, and that is his Sunday ritual. It's a ritual. So this is what intentional acts that care for us. That is well-being. That is wellness. It's a practice. We have to. And if we don't do it, we're not going to feel it. So intentional acts that care for us, that refill us, puts energy back Caregiving takes energy, work takes energy, just dealing with the monkeypox and heaven and all the new things that are coming up. It is all depleting and stressful and anxious. We have to replenish. And where finally it goes to enhancement of self. So ritual and routine are very, very important. And these are all simple things that we can do if we choose to. That is why it is intentional. So when I say enhanced self, and I talk in connection with energy, so I've spoken about repeated check-ins, ritual and routine. The other thing is taking space. So often, we tend to restrict the self to the narrow confines. We are working, or you're mothering, or you're caregiving all the time. And we stay only within these narrow spaces. Now, what happens when these spaces are challenging or difficult? The pandemic showed statistics that put huge pressure on relations, on marriages. There were many marital breakdowns, relational breakdowns at this time. When you have teenage children, when there are children who are sick, when you have elders in the house that are sick and have to be cared for, whatever the situation might be, if it's challenging, it's hard. And work, the same thing. We all have work pressure. Now, if we just exist in these spaces, what happens to us? We're drained because we're functioning from this response of the amygdala, flight, fight, flee. It diminishes us because they're not spaces that's now allowing us to sort of be where we're firefighting, or we're keeping the peace, or we're keeping quiet, or whatever it might be. Is the reduction of self. And our energy, always come to your energy. Where do you feel like your energy contracts? We contract. As I said, I've used this picture of these cages because we cage ourselves. But actually, we are multi-dimensional beings. And we need to give ourselves permission to occupy different spaces that energize and replenish us like this. Permission to occupy spaces that are positive, joyful, and affirming. I often work with women who will, and mothers and wives who work with, and joint families, and they say they're criticized by the elders in the family for going for a yoga class. Oh, why do you need to go for a yoga class? Or for spending money on a gym or whatever. But, and what we need to understand is that we have to advocate for ourselves. When we say well-being, it is active. We have to stand, we have to fight, we have to articulate and say, this is a space that's integral to me. And you got to know what that space does for you. You're going to go for a yoga class, it's because it's energizing you, it is calming you, it is enhancing, it is replenishing. These are places that you go to feel revitalized. What are those places like, right? Places we go for expansion of self. So we have the contraction of self and we have the expansion of self, and the self is fluid. Energy is fluid. Life is fluid. So of course we're going to contract all the time, but we don't have to stay contracted. That is why I champion well-being so much, because we don't have to stay contracted. We must build spaces softly, kindly, compassionately for spaces of expansion. Social community, friends, like the girl I spoke about, Nikita, with the 3 children and her Saturday girlfriend outing. So integral to her being. Hobbies, spiritual practices, traveling, learning, stimulus, play, exercise, any place where we feel this. One of these qualities, energy, we must feel it. And when we feel it in that place, that's a good place for us. And we got to realize that is beneficial to us. It is nurturing ourselves, and it can also lead to expansion of ourselves. So we can go forward and meet the challenges of living, day-to-day living, replenished. Relationships require energy. To give our best selves, children require patience. Spouses require patience, parents require patience, everybody requires patience and understanding. I have a mother of 2 children. I can tell you one is pre-teen and one is about to be 10. Listening takes a lot of patience. And I have to have the energy for it. And so if I don't do my the yoga or do these things, I will be depleted. I'm not listening. And then they know, of course, that when I'm not listening. Or I'm short-tempered. I don't want to listen. I'm not interested. I'm short-tempered. You know, I'm very reactive. We are reactive. When we don't take care of ourselves, we get reactive. We shout. When we want to hold space for someone. You love someone, you hold space for them. You listen to them. You are present with them. How can we be present for other people when we are not present to ourselves? That is why I say self-care and well-being is about belonging to ourselves. So look at this. Come to your energy. That is your guide, energy. So let me give you a little example. You know, I do this little thing with my people I work with sometimes. I say, stay tuned to your energy. You can have 3 columns. You can take a screenshot of this if you like. But I say, who are the people who inspire you, who fill you up? Who are the people who leave you neutral? And who are the people who expire you, who drain you? When you feel, have a conversation, you're exhausted by the end of it, right? There are many. And look, this is a non-judgmental exercise. This has nothing to do with love. We can love people and they can drain us. So, you know, you can call parents and of course it's love, it's duty that we stay connected and call them, but they can also be draining. And so the point of this exercise is to say, if there's a difficult conversation coming ahead of you, or if you are not feeling at your energized self, don't go try to minimize those conversations with people who deplete you, because you're just going to snap at them or snarl at them or be checked out or whatever, but try to avoid the snapping and the snarling because it depletes you further. Try and push that to a day when you've got some energy. When you've got energy, you can give, you can take more. So, when you're inspired and filled up, that's when you do those calls, you do those check-ins, you do the things that you need to do. So come into your energy, because it works with regard to working with people and in relationships and relations. Okay, there is no, as I said, it's no well-being and self-care without putting in place boundaries. As I said, my heart belongs to women and moms. Well-being belongs to us all, but coming from a patriarchal culture where women are consistently sort of, you know, we deny ourselves our needs and what we require. One of the key things that I advocate is boundaries. And of course, we all need to exercise boundaries, wherever we fall on the gender spectrum. It is a part of our well-being. So men, women, everybody, wherever we fall on that gender spectrum. What do they signal? How we want to be treated, our value for ourselves is when we stand up and we say something is important. So when I am meditating or when I'm doing yoga, and the children used to come out to me all the time, I put that boundary. I said, but I explain why. I said, this is my me time. It's very important to me. It helps me to feel calm. I like it. I enjoy it. Please don't come until after 8 o'clock. And it's a repeated established. You say it once, twice, 3 times, 4 times, it will sink in. But that was me fighting for myself with my children. It doesn't mean that I don't love them. I love them dearly, but I must have a boundary so I can keep loving them. Because if I don't do this, then I'm not I find it quite hard to be a loving and a giving mom. Okay, so the questions: are you available to your family and children all the time? Do you never say no? Because I work with corporates, do team members expect a response to their emails on the weekend, even though you're not working, but they choose to? I mean, do you need to talk about this? Do you need to say, I'm finished at 5 Friday and I will be seeing everybody back in the office on Monday? Do you need to be articulating these things? Do people call you after work when it's not urgent and you don't want to be disturbed? Because one of the things the pandemic has done is it's coalesced space. Work, private and work is all meshed into one space, and you're permanently available. We are not designed to be permanently switched on and available. So if it's not urgent, should we not advocate for ourselves and say, if the call is urgent, I'm happy to take it, but if it's not, let's do this tomorrow. So the thing about boundaries is explaining why the boundary is important to us. They should know, and to do it in a polite manner. It's how you communicate, but it's very important, because when we fail to set boundaries and hold people accountable, we feel used and mistreated. You get taken for granted. One of the most often things that parents say is, I feel taken for granted. We do. So we must preserve ourselves as well as look after our children. And I love this quote, boundaries are the distance at which I can love you and me simultaneously. I think it applies, for all our partners, our relationships, our parents. It's very important that we have some space, space, as Khalil Gibran said, the pillars of a temple stand together but stand apart. The pillars of a temple stand together but stand apart. We should be able to see each other. There has to be some distance. So we must advocate nicely for our boundaries. And this is it. They are for our well-being and care. They are not meant to punish anybody. So it's not like, oh, you don't love me. I mean, I'm coming from a parental perspective, or, it's, of course I love you, but this is for me. I think this is the key message here is that this is for me. You're not dedicated to your work. I am dedicated to my work, but if I'm done by 8 p.m. and unless it's urgent, I will appreciate it. If I can check back with you, let's get back on this tomorrow. So, we have to teach people to respect our boundaries. It doesn't happen overnight. It's a continuous process. But before we teach anybody, we've got to know why that boundary is important to us. And it really shows our value of ourselves. When we value ourselves, then it builds, it goes towards a robust self. It translates into deservability. I deserve this. Very important. Women are quitting the workforce. Everybody is, I would speak for the men as well. All their time is going towards the family, or all their savings. Everybody is allowed to spend some time and some money on themselves, So this is it. And, you're allowed to take time out to go and be with friends. So it's about saying, I'm important. I value myself. And I want this time to myself. That's what boundaries are about. So how do we draw boundaries? Do you feel the need to draw boundaries? If it's all going well, it's great. But come into yourself. If one is existing in a state of permanent exhaustion or depletion or irritation, anxiety, these are all the things. This is where we have to say, okay, what can I do to create some boundaries so I can create spaces for myself that are replenishing? And of course, a self-compassionate inner voice. I need rest. I will take this rest. I don't have to, as a father, be available to my toddler every single time that I'm not working. Fathers, mothers, everybody, you don't have to be available to them all the time. You can take some time out for yourself. You don't have to dedicate the whole weekend to caregiving of your parents and your family. You're allowed to take some time. You say, I give this to myself because I need it. And be compassionate about your needs. So that is it. It is the self-care is a practice of taking an active role in protecting one's own well-being and happiness. And I've used this image of the jug and the orange juice because life is a process of replenishing and draining. And if we only give, work, function, we are drained of energy and finally of our essence. We must put back. We must. That is, to give, we must have. To function, to bring our enhanced and our best selves to our work, to life, we must replenish. We must go towards vibrancy, vitality, energy. And because we deserve to live life with some joy and some enjoyment. So that is the session on self-care, well-being, identity, and energy. I always ask people to make the commitment to well-being and self-compassion. It's very simple. What are things that you can do? It's so manageable. It's not a big thing at all, but it has huge ripple effects. So routine, ritual, boundary, spaces, what are things that we can do to sort of raise our self-care quotient? And it will have a ripple effect on ourself, the concept of our relationship with ourself. With that, I've come to the end of the session. How do and we can, if anybody has any questions or want to open it up further, please feel free. or want to add to this, please add to it with any practices that you are doing, because we're all here to learn from each other. I would love to know as well. So, yeah. Thank you. I am trying to enlarge the screen. One sec. Stop. Okay, there we go. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Naomi, it was a power-packed and very insightful presentation. Very well presented.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, people are becoming lazy due to technology. Does laziness have an effect on memory? Yes, absolutely. I just did a white paper for the India's Wellbeing Ambassador, Dr. Rekha Chaudhary, where we looked at technology, and it's something. Yeah, it affects your neofrontal cortex and things like that. If you're going on staring at technology, if you're engaged with the screen all the time, you have to disengage. So effect on memory, yeah, it affects the brain for sure, the neural pathways and all of that. You have to disengage from staying plugged in all the time. We have to go towards tactile things, walks, crosswords, puzzles, whatever, but get away from screen. We're not meant to be connected all the time, for sure.
Yeah.
Hello. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. Yes. Yeah.
It was nice presentation, beautiful templates of slides and everything. But many times reality of life is very different. If
Correct.
I share, it's long back, but during my first son, my husband was very busy with the hectic schedule of his life.
Yeah.
Mother-in-law, usually it is expected in a family that it's a daughter-in-law who has to take care of.
Yes.
So for months and months together, I'm not talking even about a day, I could not sleep even properly. I can still remember that time, very difficult time.
Yes.
Physically, I was not completely well with my cesarean baby, and then all household responsibility and the challenging life of a newborn baby to take care of. All was all around me.
Yeah.
But I think my mother instinct was very dominant, asking me to take care. I kept on taking. And the same happened with my second delivery when I got my daughter. The same happened. I kept on working. But I think that also helped us to learn many things. There was no space even, I can say. There's no space for joy, no space for other things like exercise, going for gym or anywhere, because I was all alone to take care of.
Correct.
That has made me strong. And still I'm healthy enough to work for long. And I can still feel proud to remember those difficult days.
Yes, well, you should feel proud. You must, Aparna. It sounds incredibly challenging. And I think it's a testimony to your strength that you did it, without any support. But Aparna, you are one person who has been able to do it. I know of many instances and women who go through intense trauma because of this, and they don't have the kind of strength that you have. So they require support. I was really fortunate.
Yeah, I agree.
So the partners, our husbands, they have to help. We have to fight against the socio-cultural conditioning that the woman takes the brunt of it. It's not right. You should have rested at that time. You've been a little bit pampered. Instead, you in the Kali mode. Women we become so fierce, right? Because you have no option, Aparna, and the motherhood instinct. But so while I hear what you're saying, and I understand that it's made you very strong, you are one woman. And there are many who really struggle.
Many of us. Yeah.
We have to keep that in mind. It depends on that.
Thank you.
Yes, Mary.
Hi, ma'am. Actually, you've done a very incredible session because you spoke from the different point of view. Everybody say, woman, mother, you should be very sacrificing, should give time for family. More than yourself, you should think about others, your brother, sister. If unmarried means brother, sister, mother,
Yes.
father. If married means husband, children. But you've taken the topic to a different level. In that, I learned a lot.
Oh, that's so.
It's a more for me learning session. So this way also people are living the life. So I have not seen my mother living like this because I am not married. So I don't know what is in-laws and what is that. So I
Yes.
don't know. So I not seen my mother having me time, and she's always been sacrificing for others. Now after my dad passed away, only she has taken rest.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
till my dad was there 5 years back, my dad passed away. After that, only I see her taking at least 75% rest, only 25% she does
Yes.
work. But
Yes.
when my dad was there, she's always sacrificing for in-laws, sister-in-law, brother-in-law. So you have taken, nowadays people take me time and all now. So it's
Yes.
very new to me, and you have done incredible.
Oh, thank you, Mary. Thank you. I
And,
champion.
I think when you're saying it now, I think you're following it. That's why you're telling it very confidently.
Yes, I do. I do follow
I
it.
feel that
Yeah.
because when you tell it in a way that I feel that you're practicing it, that's why you're telling. But you've taken the topic to different level.
Thank you.
That
I
is
just
very
want to
good.
say that about, thank you so much, Mary. That's very kind of you. Thank you very much. I want to just say that, this concept of sacrifice is a cultural legacy. We see it, we've seen it modeled from, our grandparents, our parents, and all of that. And we just swallow it. And we are living now in the metaverse. We are in the metaverse, and our children are going to traveling on rockets and artificial intelligence. We have to move away from this. We have to question at what cost. My grandmother also worked and sacrificed for her family, and she only, like your mother Mary, took break when my grandfather passed away. But at that time her body was had a lot of pains. She had arthritis, she had a lot of back pain because from standing on her feet for so long and things like that. So I feel strongly that we must all, men, women, there are so many people in this room,
Now I see my present friends. I studied in Mounts only in Bangalore. Mount Carmel, but I see my Mount Carmel friends, they will tell their husband, today you do cooking, I will take rest. They have the guts to tell what my mother didn't have.
Yes.
My friends have that guts. They're living their life like they're giving more time for themselves. They're going for beauty parlor, they're dressing up well. We don't feel like they got married, they're having so much big son. They're taking care of themselves. Now new mothers.
Yes.
But
yes.
our parents, that's what I learned. Recently, I had gone for the Mount Carmel Platinum Jubilee. I saw so many of my friends who have so big older children, but they're looking very young.
Sorry.
So
yeah,
it's a very nowadays change. What you're telling is happening currently.
Yes.
Those who are in the 40s and beginning of 40s and mid of 30s, that is happening now.
Yes.
Because I see it with my own friends now. So,
yes.
but that didn't happen.
Yes. So I hope we all do it in small ways. Excuse me, one moment. I have to open the door because my child has come. Just one moment, please. Sorry. Life of a mother.
But I see now a lot of people are doing like what you said in practical. I'm seeing. So it's very incredible session. God bless you, ma'am. Take care.
Thank you. It's kind. Thank you.
Anyone else would like to share? Feel free to share your observation, comments, or any clarifications.
Yeah, hi, Naomi.
Yes, Nihal.
Yes, thank you. That was very eye-opening, inspirational, and there'll be changes that I'll be making to my life, I think, on the basis of some of the thoughts that you've put across. I had a question. I'm dialing from Singapore, and more in the work context, from a managerial perspective. This part of the world, many countries where there's openness just demonstration of some vulnerability, etc., is not generally accepted, on the work front, especially now that, even if you're moving to virtual kind of conversations, etc. From a managerial point of view, if you want to try and encourage this, across markets, especially some of those where, people are, not very open to speaking or sharing their feelings. Any thoughts on that, or how this could be encouraged in teams that span different cultural contexts?
So the point, the entry point is to encourage a culture where the manager would have to say, we encourage bringing your whole self to each meeting or to work, your whole authentic self, and that has to be modeled by you. When you say display vulnerability, there are different types of vulnerability. One is showing a vulnerability to show that you do not have the answer as a manager. So for instance, if something is being discussed, the vulnerability of a good manager to say, I don't have the answer, who here has the technical knowledge or the expertise who could provide the answer for that? That is vulnerability, because as a manager, you're there to lead people, to bring people to get together. You don't necessarily have to have the technical expertise. So that may be viewed as a weakness, but it will also be appreciated. And there is some risk with vulnerability. To show vulnerability takes courage. So there is definitely an element of risk, but that is one way of, and also thanking the source, who has a technical knowledge. The other thing is bringing yourself as you are. So if you're a parent, to bring yourself as a parent. If you are like married, caregiving for your mother, suppose the mother is sick, to bring that into the context. For instance, if there's a meeting, I spoke with somebody from Microsoft, and she knew that the woman that she was, that one of the people on her team had a mother who had cancer. And she could not be there to attend some of the daily meetings or the weekly meetings. So that's the vulnerability of saying, I will not be there because I'm taking care of my sick mother, and the manager to say, I support that. But when there is a critical project at hand, we will need you. So at that time, then I cannot take the risk of keeping you on that project, but just generally to have those open conversations and allow for that. So till that time, the project gets critical, to have such people, just to give them the platform to bring their whole selves, is one way to do it. The other thing is in terms of cross-cultural context, language. Not everybody is confident with speaking, or is shy to take space, especially if language is a constraint. But to constantly encourage and say, we would love your views, please share, maybe in chat, wherever you're comfortable, and advocate that constantly. So it's not it's a hard question to answer, but the manager would really have to take the lead and exhibit vulnerability themselves and champion it, including things like, I am going to get off this call at 7 o'clock because I need to put my daughter to sleep. That is showing yourself, your whole self as a father. Or because I need to take my parent to the hospital, and bringing in those aspects of you, of yourself, will give others the permission to do the same. And you might be judged for it, but I feel from what we're seeing on the current work scenario today, you will be appreciated for it. Because
excellent point.
Yeah, so that's a little bit. It's a little bit. It's all about creating psychological safety in your environment. And if anybody else wants to comment on psychological safety, they're most welcome to. But how do you create psychological safety in your teams? You have to demo that yourself as well. The manager has. Yeah. So I hope
Thanks very much.
There's something.
Anyone else would like to share? Can quickly share. Okay, there are no other queries or clarifications.
Okay.
So thank you, Naomi George, for your wonderful presentation. And we wish you all the success and for your future endeavors on behalf of Sri Holistic Health Foundation India and Sri Research Institute Center for Art Sciences and Wellbeing.
Thank you very much, Dr. Ravindra.
For joining us, and look forward for more sessions in future.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for everyone who attended, for your questions. Thank you, Mary, for finding me and inviting me. Thank you to everyone. Have a good evening.
So as per your convenience, you may stay back or leave. We have another session.
Okay. I have to leave. Thank you.
Thank you. So we have with us Professor Aparna Vajpayee, Professor and Associate Dean, School of Liberal Arts and Management, PP Savani University, Gujarat, India. We welcome you, ma'am.
Yeah, I'm there.
On multinationals in India. Over to you.
Am I able to share my screen?
Yeah, it's visible. You can start your video as well.
Is it okay?
Yeah, yes, ma'am. Please continue.
Good evening, all of you. This is Aparna Vajpayee. Today I'm going to make presentation on multinationals in India. This is one of the study which I did with the help of my student, Ms. Abhilasha Verma. So we both have done this work. The background of research is that if any multinational is coming or going to a host country, they are not just going to operate their business, they are also carrying their culture, and that is reshaping the culture of India. And with this, we have tried to study that how the culture of Indian multinationals and multinationals from abroad are different from each other. So with this context, we have started exploring the culture phenomenon in Indian multinational and foreign multinationals. As you all know that culture is a system of values, beliefs, shared meaning, norms and traditions that distinguish one from another. And with the nationality and social class, gender and racial ethnicity, the organization itself is building its own culture with various levels. And these layers are the shared assumptions of the top management people, which become the part of cultural values of the people participating in the organization. And then the shared behavior, which is being shaped by the cultural values, and thus organization forms their cultural symbols to live with that. This is how the culture is being adopted by various organizations. Then how culture emerges. So with the top management, they share some philosophy, some beliefs, they make some rules, regulations, vision and mission. With that, those values go to the employees of the organization, and the commitment with those values make the organization culture, and the cultural values, how it is being followed and shared, is totally shaping the culture as a weaker section of the weaker culture of the organization, or it emerges as a strong culture in an organization. So this is how it get evolved. Then method of maintaining cultures, if you say how you can maintain, there are various ways with which management is maintaining the culture. They are recruiting the people who can adopt their culture and can have a fit with their culture. So this is one way. And then organization culture is being taught with the orientation training and the practices of the organization. And if any person is deviating from those norms, then often the removal of those employees from the organization also helps the organization to live with the culture with which they have established themselves. Then these are the steps: the careful selection, challenging early work assignment, training to develop capabilities of constant culture, reward the sustained culture, and adoption of cultural values and policy, rituals, and role models. This is how the steps of socialization took place in adopting the culture. And in any misfit in organization or a culture can also have a kind of misfit. With this, we have framed this study to know the organizational culture of multinational companies in India from foreign background, and then Indian multinationals. The 4 dimensions which we have selected to compare the organizational culture of multinationals in India and Indian multinationals were involvement, consistency, adaptability, and missions. So with these 4 dimensions, we have tried to study how the Indian multinationals and foreign multinationals are different from each other. Involvement, we have tried to study the 3 aspects under it: empowerment, team orientation, capability, and development. In consistency, again, we have taken another 3 dimensions: coordination and integration, agreement, and core values. In adaptability, we have again taken 3 sub part of the adaptability: creating change, customer focus, organizational learning. And ultimately, in the mission aspect, we have compared the organizational culture of multinationals from foreign and Indian multinational with the 3 aspects: strategic direction and intent, goal and objective, and visions. This is all 12 various dimensions under the 4 major categories with which we have tried to study the organizational culture in Indian multinationals and foreign multinationals. We hypothesize that there will be a significant difference between the multinational and national organization in regard to organizational culture. There will be an association between organizational culture and its various dimensions, and the sub-trait of organizational culture in national and multinational companies will differ. So with these hypotheses, we started studying. The objective of the research was to examine the typical culture that exists in foreign multinational and Indian multinationals to ascertain if this culture differs between multinationals and national organizations, to find out if there exists a difference in sub-dimensions of overall culture of organization, for example, multinationals and national organization, to ascertain if there is any association between the dimensions of organization culture in regard to its 12 traits and whether their relationship vary between the multinationals or nationals or not. Then we have taken sample from 2 multinational companies of India and 2 which have come from foreign, and 2 Indian multinational companies. For that, we have selected the 4 companies and collected thousands data from each company. I'm not naming the companies because we are valuing their confidentiality with that. So I'm not disclosing the name of the organizations from where we have taken the sample, but we have chosen 2 multinational companies in India and 2 Indian multinational companies to compare with, of the same kind of business background. So business background was same for the 4 companies. The tool which we have used to study the organizational culture was the Denison's scale of organizational cultural survey, which we have used. And there was a scoring from 1 to 5. It was Likert scale with which we have collected the data. The research design was the comparative design with which we have tried to compare the multinationals with national organization, national origin, and multinationals from foreign origin, and we tried to study that. Then we have studied then the analysis of result. What we find with the study that with the multinationals and nationals, that in involvement with the three aspects of involvement: empowerment, team orientation, and capability development and intent, there was significant difference in terms of capability development and intent in national, multinational, Indian multinationals and foreign multinational. In the same way, team orientation, if we see the result, multinationals from abroad were having better teamwork. When it comes to empowerment, the empowerment of employees, there was no significant difference in Indian multinationals and foreign multinationals. In the same way, then we have tried to study the empowerment in terms of other variables, and the analysis of result shows that for core values, agreement and coordination, it was only core value in which we could see the significant difference between Indian multinationals and foreign multinationals. In other, there were difference, but the difference among the Indian multinational and foreign multinationals were not significant. Then another dimensions with which we have tried to study the organizational culture was the vision, in which we have taken SDI, goal and objectives, and vision, these three variables. And if you see the findings of the result, in vision, there was no significant difference. That means the Indian multinationals and foreign multinationals were having good vision planning for long term. And with goal and objective, there was significant difference. And for strategic decisions, again, and integrity, there was a significant difference, where these Indian multinational companies need to work to improve their performance. So overall, I can say we could find that the Indian multinationals need to work in the area of core values, coordination and integration, where they need to improve to compete their foreign multinational companies. Another area where the Indian multinational company need to work is the customer focus. In customer focus, foreign multinational companies are performing much better than Indian multinationals. And in the same way, the creative and change, that means flexibility in work in foreign multinational companies, were higher as compared to Indian multinational. In the same way, if we see the vision, then there was no significant difference, but Indian multinationals need to work in the area of goal and objective to meet the challenges of foreign multinationals. So these are all dimensions with which we have tried to study the organizational culture and the adaptability, mission, consistency, and involvement, and the suggestions we have given to the companies to improve it. In fact, it was one of the sponsored study, and we have given suggestions based on that to Siemens India Limited to improve in the performance where they are lacking in compared to Indian multinationals. But in fact, the result is showing that Indian multinationals are lagging behind in several aspects, yet the foreign multinationals are doing pretty well in their performance of various dimensions of organizational culture. This is all about my study. If anybody is having any questions related to that, I'm there to reply. Any question related to that as I have finished the presentation?
Participants, if you have any queries, to raise, share.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ravindra, for giving me an opportunity to make presentation.
Thank you, ma'am. It was a very short but a very insightful presentation. Covered, everything in a very short text in terms of text, but you covered vast information, vast knowledge was put into a very effective manner. Very insightful and yeah, Mary ma'am, you can unmute yourself.
Actually, it was learning for session for me, ma'am. This topic I don't know, so it's very learning and a lot of informative. I learned a lot from this.
Sorry, I was little quick in presentation, but
yeah, it's okay. But I learned a lot. I don't have any doubts. It's learning and informative session. All the best, ma'am. God bless you.
thank you so much.
Dear participants, if you have any queries, we can quickly take it up. Otherwise, we shall conclude. Thank you, ma'am, for joining us and for the wonderful presentation. We wish you all the success for your future endeavors.
Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
So, dear participants, quickly fill up the feedback form. Feedback form is being shared in the chat box. Feedback form has been shared in the chat box. Quickly fill up the feedback form before you leave the webinar. We thank one and all for joining us and see you all tomorrow at the same time with a different topic with the same link. And for the new members who you can download your certificates from the website. I will quickly show you from where you can download your websites in 2 minutes so that after 15 working days, you can visit website and download your certificates. This is a website which has been shared through registration link and available across the platforms. Here, after visiting this website, just below the logos, here you will see International Webinar Series on Holistic Health, Well-being and Sustainable Development. All webinars, conferences, workshops, seminars, which are all going on as part of Azadi Ka Amrit Mahotsav celebrations are part of this. So you can see here daily webinars and conferences details. You can click on that. And then on the left side, you can see weekdays and Sunday schedule. So today being weekday, you can select today's date from the navigation menu. So it's not yet updated today's. So we're a little bit busy. Otherwise, see yesterday's you can find here. So like this, you'll below the flyer, you can find the link here after 15 working days. So you can visit the website and download here. And also, do not forget to add this calendar, subscribe and add this calendar to your Google or Android or iOS or Outlook calendars so that it will remind you every day we have international webinars, and as well as every Sunday we have international conferences. The link is same. Registration form varies for every Sunday, but for every weekday for all the international webinar series, the registration link is same. So you can register for the event with the same link, and you can join with the same link. And we have Facebook group, Telegram channel. You can join them so that you will be receiving updates. So see you all tomorrow at the same time. Take care. Good night. Before leaving, kindly fill up the feedback form.